Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown and AEW Rampage review. Smackdown tonight was from the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, while Rampage was taped from the Indiana Farmers Coliseum in Indianapolis, Indiana. And Smackdown tonight, what a boring ass show this was. This show was absolutely fucking terrible tonight. It was 2 hours worth of nothing. If you missed SmackDown tonight, you did not miss a goddamn thing on this show. Boring ass fucking show this was. Roman Reigns needs to come back fast because Sikoa and Jim Uso there, along with Paul Heyman, is not doing the show any favors. And it's not doing the Bloodline story any favors. The Bloodline story, without Roman here, the story is just ice cold, in my opinion. What do we get on SmackDown tonight? We had Shotzi and Charlotte Flair versus Bayley and Skye. We had LA Knight versus Austin Theory. Finn Balor and Damian Priest ended up taking on Butch and Ridge Holland. And the main event of the show was AJ Styles versus Jim Uso. That was SmackDown tonight. Overall, nothing happened. 2 hours worth of nothing. It was a waste of all of our time for 2 hours. And I know some of the superstars weren't there because WWE did their show overseas in India. It was the Superstar Spectacle, which basically was a house show. And I read the results. I'm like, your typical house show. Great Khali came for the show, from what I read. So, but yeah, they had that. And a lot of people wanted the show to be on Peacock. And I'm like, the card that I read for the results, I'm like, it did not look interesting, in my opinion. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. SmackDown opened up tonight with the first match. And it was Charlotte Flair and Shotzi versus Bayley and Skye. And of course, Charlotte made her way out first. And I'm like, oh, what a worse way to open SmackDown with Charlotte. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a long 2 hours. But this match was just very meh, in my opinion. So the match got underway. Charlotte and Bayley started off. Bayley ended up going for a right hand to Charlotte, but Charlotte ended up ducking. She ended up kicking Io with a big boot. Bayley then ended up hitting Charlotte as Io ended up getting into the ring, as did Shotzi. So all four women ended up fighting to the outside of the ring. Io ended up getting on the ring apron and landed a moonsault onto both Charlotte and Shotzi. And then SmackDown went to commercial. 10 minutes into the show, it already went to a commercial. Can you believe that? So now as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Bayley and Io ended up double teaming on Shotzi in the middle of the ring. Bayley went for a cover and Shotzi kicked out. She then threw Shotzi to the corner, but Shotzi ended up kicking Bayley away. Shotzi made the tag as Io ended up getting the ring. So Shotzi ended up tagging in Charlotte. Charlotte ended up landing a crossbody onto both Bayley and Io. She then delivered some chops onto Bayley. Charlotte then landed a fallaway slam to Bayley, which she followed up with a clothesline. Io got into the ring. Charlotte ended up throwing Io across the ring. Charlotte ended up going for the figure eight on Io, but Bayley ended up rolling Charlotte up, to which Charlotte kicked out. Charlotte then grabbed Bayley's leg, and she ended up getting the figure four, but Io ended up coming in. Io ended up hitting Charlotte with a Meteora. Bayley then ended up placing Charlotte on the top rope, and Io ended up hitting Charlotte with a Hurricanrana. Bayley then climbed to the top rope, and she ended up looking over, and Asuka was shown standing behind Dakota Kai. So Asuka standing there behind Dakota Kai distracted Bayley. So we had Dakota Kai end up getting shocked, and Asuka end up having the title on her, Io's title. So Charlotte end up knocking Bayley down. She up hitting Io with a big boot. Shotzi then end up hitting the DDT onto Bayley. She up going for the cover, and there you go. Charlotte Flair and Shotzi ended up winning the match. Post-match, Asuka stood in the middle of the ring with the Women's Championship. Io ended up getting the ring as Asuka threw the title, and she was smiling at Io, and then she ended up leaving the ring, and pretty much that was basically that. But we'll like to see Asuka versus Io Skye for the title. We're probably going to get it on a random Smackdown, even though it should be booked for Fastlane, which knowing WWE, they'll probably not book that for Fastlane. They'll probably just throw it on a random Smackdown. But overall, just very meh women's tag team match it was. And then we saw Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman was on the phone. In came Jimmy Uso. Jimmy had telling Paul Heyman that no one told him anything about being out of the bloodline, and that he is in the bloodline. Paul Heyman ended up telling Jimmy that Roman and Solo Sikoa are not here tonight. And technically, if he is not out, he is in. He ended up saying Roman did offer him a house and a car. Paul Heyman then ended up telling Jimmy to handle AJ Styles tonight, and he will handle Jimmy Uso's business with Roman. So Paul Heyman ended up saying, before Jimmy knows it, he will bring this family back together. So Paul Heyman ended up walking away, and then he ended up seeing AJ Styles. Paul Heyman ended up telling Styles he was just talking about him. He then ended up asking Styles if he has enough problems in his life before he decides that he wants to get involved with him. So Styles then grabbed Paul Heyman, but Jimmy ended up attacking Styles from behind. So Jimmy ended up throwing Styles into some equipment. Jimmy then walked away, and then Paul Heyman was there. He had his phone in hand, and of course Paul Heyman's like, call Roman Reigns. And that was basically that. But the Bloodline story is just ice cold without Roman there. Roman needs to seriously come back fast. And as SmackDown came back from the commercial, we saw Damage Control. Bayley, Io Skye, Dakota Kai. Bayley ended up asking, what is wrong with everyone? And so Kayla Braxton ended up coming in. Bayley ended up telling Kayla Braxton that Asuka is not the champion anymore, and she should mind her business. Io then ended up saying that she is ready for Asuka, and that is a challenge for the championship. So that was that. We're going to get that match either way with Asuka and Io Skye for the title. And then out came, L.A. Knight. Loud pop from the crowd there in Boston for LA Knight tonight. Knight stood in the ring. The fans were chanting his name. And of course, he tells the crowd, let me talk to you. So they popped for him. Knight ended up asking if everyone got the chance to see The Miz on Raw. He ended up saying that he didn't come to play. He came to walk straight to the top, and anyone who stands in his way. And The Miz knows what happens. Knight ended up saying 1 week The Miz plays dress up, to which he portraying LA Knight, disguising himself as LA Knight. And Knight ended up saying that this week he plays make-believe against an invisible John Cena. To which The Miz on Raw Monday, he was doing that. He had Miz TV. He was talking to an invisible John Cena, which The Miz was just talking to a chair there, and then he's punching air. He's doing the Skull Crusher finale to the Invisible John Cena. He did the Skull Crusher finale to air. It looked fucking stupid. So, LA Knight ended up saying that, Miz ended up saying that he won because of John Cena. Knight ended up saying that he didn't ask for Cena, and that he didn't need Cena, and that he didn't need Cena's endorsement. He kept saying he endorsed himself to stand right there. So Knight ended up saying that he has all the respect in the world for what Cena has accomplished, but Cena did count to 3. Knight ended up saying that if Miz wants to be a cockroach, and he wants to be stomped one more time, to consider his challenge. So then, LA Knight got interrupted by Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller ended up coming out. He ended up asking LA Knight if that's a good idea, if the Miz ran through Cena on Raw, almost like he wasn't there. So he ended up saying that him and his associate, Austin Theory, were backstage talking. So Grayson Waller ended up introducing Theory. So Theory ended up coming out. Grayson Waller ended up saying that last week they had one of the biggest wins in WWE history. He ended up saying that they are the only tag team on the roster that are undefeated and, realistically, the greatest tag team of all time, if they decide to be. They are not a legit tag team, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. They aren't. So LA Knight ended up telling them that they have to be proud because they are fan favorites. So the fans end up booing Knight and Grayson Waller. Theory ended up telling LA Knight, "Let me talk to you." He ended up asking who's the referee that helped LA Knight defeat The Miz. He ended up saying John Cena, the guy that he beat at WrestleMania. And he already beat LA Knight too. So Theory ended up saying at only 26 years old, he already became a 2-time United States champion. And LA Knight LA Knight has just been here. So Theory ended up telling Knight to take in his 15 minutes of fame, because after he is done with him, The Miz won't waste his time. LA Knight ended up telling the both of them if they are done, and he can show them how it's done. So Knight ended up calling Grayson Waller a moron, and he also called Austin Theory a halfwit. Knight ended up saying that TD Garden stands on Legends Way, and a very legendary way. Austin Theory, at 26 years old, can get his ass kicked, with everyone saying, L.A. Knight, yeah! And pretty much that was that. But overall, thought it was an okay segment, with LA Knight and Grayson Waller, Austin Theory. LA Knight, of course, still over with the crowd. Heard WWE is going to be working on a big push for him, which is great. He was the top merch seller last month. So everything seems to be going good for LA Knight. And then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had LA Knight versus Austin Theory. Grayson Waller was on commentary for the match, and the match was decent, in my opinion. Match got underway. We had Theory end up delivering a shoulder tackle tonight, as the fans were chanting, "Theory sucks." Theory ended up running to the ropes, but Knight ended up coming back with a back elbow to Theory. Knight delivered a swinging neck breaker to Theory, and then Knight ended up grabbing Theory. Theory pushed Knight onto the turnbuckle, and Theory then delivered a snap suplex to Knight as he ended up going for the cover, and Knight ended up kicking out. Knight rolled onto the ring apron. Austin Theory ended up going for a suplex, but Knight ended up blocking the suplex attempt, and Knight ended up hitting Theory with a knee. Knight jumped over the top rope and into the ring. He ended up hitting Theory with a shoulder tackle. Theory then fell to the outside. Knight then ended up slamming Theory into the commentary table. So Knight ended up throwing Theory into the ring and into the corner. Knight ended up running towards Theory, but Theory ended up lifting Knight up and hanged him onto the top rope. Knight ended up falling onto the ring apron as Theory hit Knight with a neck breaker onto the outside of the ring. And then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Knight was in control of the match. He delivered a clothesline to Theory, which was followed up by a Russian leg sweep. Knight ended up hitting Theory with a DDT. We had Knight end up lifting Theory up on his shoulders, but Theory landed on his feet. Theory then delivered a right hand to Knight, which was followed by a rolling brainbuster. So Theory ended up going for the cover, and Knight ended up kicking out. We had LA Knight end up going for a suplex, but Theory blocked it, and he ended up reversing that, hitting Knight with a suplex. And while the ref was not looking, Grayson Waller climbed the top rope, and Grayson Waller undid the top turnbuckle pad. He took the top turnbuckle pad off. Theory ended up throwing Knight into the ring. Knight ended up throwing Theory to the ropes, and he ended up hitting Theory with a power slam. Knight then ended up running to the ropes. He ended up hitting Theory with an elbow. Grayson Waller got on the ring apron, and he distracted Knight. Theory ended up rolling Knight up, but Knight ended up kicking out. Theory ended up trying to throw Knight into the exposed turnbuckle, but Knight ended up blocking it, and he ended up trying to send Theory into it. Theory then turned around, and LA Knight hit Theory with the blunt force trauma, the BFT. Knight ended up going for the cover, and there you go. LA Knight ended up winning the match. Post-match, Grayson Waller got into the ring. Knight ended up getting in Grayson Waller's face, but Waller ended up rolling out of the ring, and that was basically that. But overall, decent match between LA Knight and Austin Theory here. Looks like LA Knight's going to get his hands on Grayson Waller next. So that's the case there. And then we saw Kathy Kelly. Kathy Kelly was backstage with AJ Styles. Styles ended up telling Kathy Kelly that he is standing, but he can fight. He ended up saying that Jimmy Uso can jump him from behind as many times as he wants, but nothing is going to stop him from ripping Jimmy's head off. So that was what AJ Styles had to say before going into his match with Jimmy, which was the main event of the show. And then we have Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman was backstage with Adam Pearce as SmackDown came back from the commercial. Paul Heyman ended up telling Adam Pearce that no one can put their hands on him. Heyman ended up asking Pearce who will get traded from Raw to SmackDown. So in came LA Knight. LA Knight ended up asking for a match against The Miz next week. And Adam Pearce ended up saying that the match will happen. So Paul Heyman ended up telling LA Knight that they have never been properly introduced. Paul Heyman ended up saying that he is a fan of his. Paul Heyman ended up telling LA Knight that the next time the guy outside the door tells him that he is in here doing business, to do himself a favor and knock first. Paul Heyman ended up asking if they are clear. LA Knight ended up telling Paul Heyman, yeah, and then Paul Heyman walked out, and pretty much that was basically that. But obviously we're going to get The Miz versus LA Knight next week on SmackDown. I think it's going to be LA Knight versus Grayson Waller the next week, maybe. Who knows? Since LA Knight got his hands on Austin Theory tonight. Obviously, you know, a match with Knight and Grayson Waller is going to happen after Knight gets done with The Miz next week. And then we saw the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day ended up coming out. No Rhea Ripley because Rhea Ripley was in India for the Superstar Spectacle. So Priest and Balor and Dominic all came out. Priest ended up telling the crowd to all rise, for the crew has all the gold. Balor then ended up asking them, who is better than them? Nobody. And so Dominic ended up going to speak, and we had the abysmal piped in boos And I'm like, the boos were louder. And you couldn't even hear Dominic on the mic. So whoever was in the production truck, probably Kevin Dunn, cranked up the boo volume to 15, and all you just heard was the loud boos over Dominic, to the point where you couldn't hear what Dominic was saying. These piped-in boos are just absolutely awful. And you see nobody in the crowd booing Dominic. And I'm like, are we in the fucking Thunderdome again? It feels like we're back in the Thunderdome. So Dominic ended up saying that Rhea is in India, being the most dominant WWE Women's Champion. Priest ended up saying that they are proud of Rhea, and that they are also proud that they accomplished something that not even the Bloodline could do, something not even Roman Reigns could do. They ended up saying that they not only beat Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, they took the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships from Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. So Dominic began to speak again, but of course the loud piped-in boos just rang in over Dominic, to the point, like I said, we couldn't hear what he was saying. So Dominic ended up saying that they are the most dominant group. And then out came the Brawling Brutes. Out came Butch and Ridge Holland. Butch ended up saying that it's fight night. So Ridge Holland ended up mentioning that Dominic said they are the most dominant group. Ridge Holland ended up saying that the Brawling Brutes are here in Boston, and that the Judgment Day could not have picked worse opponents. He ended up saying, but it's not him they have to worry about. It's Butch. So Balor began to laugh. He ended up pointing at Butch, but Butch ended up twisting Balor's finger. So we had Ridge Holland and Butch end up throwing Priest and Balor to the outside, and that was basically that. Overall, your typical, Judgment Day promo. Priest ended up telling the crowd to all rise. Dominic gets on the mic, piped in loud boos, where to the point where nobody is booing in the crowd. So that was that. And then we had the Judgment Day versus the Brawling Brutes. This was just okay, in my opinion. This was an okay tag team match. Match got underway. Butch ended up twisting Balor's fingers, and Butch ended up taking to Ridge Holland. Ridge Holland ended up spinning Balor around and slamming him onto the canvas. So Ridge Holland ended up lifting Balor up. Balor landed on his feet and tagged in Damian Priest. Priest then delivered a show tackle to Holland, which was followed up by a right hand. Priest ended up grabbing Ridge Holland, but Ridge Holland ended up lifting Priest up. Balor ended up coming in, and Ridge Holland ended up lifting Balor up, and Holland ended up slamming both Priest and Balor down to the canvas. Dominic ended up getting on the ring apron, and that distracted Ridge Holland. Damian Priest took control of the match. He ended up hitting Holland with a clothesline. Balor then tagged in, and both Balor and Priest ended up double teaming on Ridge Holland. Balor then delivered a headlock on Ridge Holland in the middle of the ring. Holland got to his feet. He threw Balor across the ring. Butch ended up tagging in, and he ended up running and kicking Priest off the ring apron. Butch delivered some right hands to Balor, and then a kick to Balor's face. So Balor ended up falling to the outside. Butch climbed the second rope, and he landed a moonsault onto both Priest and Balor, which was great. So then, as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Priest and Ridge Holland were in the ring. Priest delivered some kicks to Holland. He ended up going for a right hand, but Ridge Holland ended up grabbing Priest and delivered a underhook suplex. Butch ended up tagging in. Butch and Holland double teamed on Priest. Butch ended up going for the cover, and Priest ended up kicking out. So Butch ended up running toward Priest, but Priest ended up hitting Butch with a kick to his face. So Priest ended up going for the cover. Butch ended up kicking out. So later on, Dominic ended up getting on the ring apron, Butch ended up catching Dominic. Balor ended up turning Butch around and hit him with a sling blade. Balor climbed the top rope. He ended up going for the coup de grace, but Butch moved out of the way. Butch ended up going for the cover on Balor, but Balor ended up kicking out. So, Priest later on ended up hitting Ridge Holland with the South of Heaven. He ended up grabbing Butch and hit Butch with the South of Heaven. Balor then tagged in. He ended up hitting the coup de grace onto Ridge Holland. Balor ended up going for the cover on Holland. So there you go. The Judgment Day, Damian Priest and Finn Balor ended up winning the match. So post-match, the Judgment Day ended up celebrating in the ring. Bobby Lashley's music ended up hitting. And out came Lashley with the Street Profits. So he had all 6 men in the ring. Bobby Lashley ended up getting in Priest's face. Montez Ford got in Balor's face. And Dawkins got in Dominic's face. Lashley got on the mic. He ended up telling the Judgment Day that they are right, that the Bloodline are crumbling. But it's not the Judgment Day taking over. It's them. So that was that. Looks like we're going to be getting, a Bobby Lashley and Street Profits match against, the Judgment Day, against Balor and Damian Priest and Dominic. So it looks like we're going to be getting a 6-man tag from these guys at some point. And then we had Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and Mia Yim backstage. And in came AJ Styles. Styles ended up asking them if they have any idea what's going on. He then asked them if they saw Jimmy attack him from behind. Carl Anderson ended up saying that he is sorry. So Styles ended up slamming Carl Anderson's phone onto the floor because Carl Anderson was showing Luke Gallows and Mia Yim something on his phone. So Styles ended up telling them if this is how it's going to be, he doesn't want them at ringside for his match against Jimmy. So that was that. And then as SmackDown came back from the commercial, Asuka was backstage. She ended up cutting a promo. She ended up saying that Damage Control forgot about her. She ended up saying that she was the champion and that she will take her title back. So there you go. That was what Asuka had to say. Main event. AJ Styles versus Jimmy Uso. And this was a decent match here. Match got underway. Jimmy ended up going for a super kick to Styles, but Styles moved out of the way. Styles kicked Jimmy's leg, and Jimmy followed up with a right hand. And Styles ended up knocking Jimmy down. Styles ended up delivering a snap suplex to Jimmy. Styles then delivered some kicks, which was followed by a backbreaker to Jimmy. Styles delivered a kick to the side of Jimmy's head as the ref ended up checking up on Jimmy. Styles ended up throwing Jimmy to the outside of the ring. Jimmy got back into the ring, and we had Jimmy ended up delivering an elbow to Styles' face, which knocked Styles down. Jimmy then grabbed Styles, but Styles ended up throwing Jimmy to the ropes. Jimmy rolled to the outside of the ring, and Styles delivered a baseball slide, which knocked Jimmy down. Styles was on the ring apron, but Jimmy ended up hitting Styles with a super kick. And then we saw Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa end up walking down the ramp. So Solo Sikoa was on SmackDown tonight, even though earlier we had Paul Heyman end up saying, "Oh, Roman and Sikoa aren't here." So Jimmy ended up slamming Styles' face into the ring steps, and then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had Jimmy Uso in control of the match. He delivered some right hands to Styles, which Jimmy followed that up with a headlock. Styles then delivered some elbows to Jimmy, but Jimmy ended up slamming Styles down to the canvas. Jimmy then locked in again, another headlock on Styles, but Styles ended up getting to his feet. Styles delivered a belly back suplex to Jimmy. So both Jimmy and Styles deliver some right hands to each other. Styles then delivered an overhead kick to Jimmy, and then he clotheslined Jimmy over the top rope to the outside. Styles then delivered a forearm over the top rope onto Jimmy, and he had thrown Jimmy back into the ring. Styles got on the ring apron. He was looking at Sikoa, who was at ringside. Styles then ended up going for the phenomenal forearm. Jimmy moved out of the way, and Styles landed on his feet. Styles then grabbed Jimmy and slammed him onto his knee. Styles ended up going for the cover, and Jimmy ended up kicking out. So Jimmy then ended up grabbing Styles. Styles ended up hitting him with a DDT. So Styles ended up going for the cover, and Jimmy ended up kicking out. So Styles ended up getting on the ring apron. He got distracted by Sikoa, and then Jimmy ended up hitting Styles with a super kick. Jimmy then threw Styles to the outside. Jimmy ended up trying to talk to Sikoa, but Sikoa turned around, and Styles ended up attacking both Jimmy and Sikoa from behind. Styles then ended up throwing Jimmy into the ring. Styles then ended up delivering the phenomenal forearm to Jimmy. Styles ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Styles ended up winning the match. Post-match, Sikoa got into the ring as Styles ended up leaving and walking up the ramp. Out came Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Both Priest and Balor attacked Styles from behind. So Priest and Balor ended up throwing Styles back into the ring. Sikoa ended up hitting Styles with the Samoan spike. And then Sikoa ended up looking at Priest and Balor, who were at ringside. And that was how Smackdown went off the air. So it looks like we might be getting maybe Jimmy and Sikoa versus Priest and Balor. And then, probably going to get a 6-man tag later on with the Judgment Day and Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. It would be a good way for Bianca Belair to come back and side herself with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. So that way, we can have Bianca Belair fight Rhea Ripley. So that's how the way I see it going. But overall, what a boring Smackdown this was. A waste of 2 hours. If you missed the show, you did not miss anything. Moving on to AEW Rampage. Rampage was your typical show here. We had 2 Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament quarterfinal matches. We had Penta Miedo versus Jay Lethal. We had a women's trios match. Britt Baker, or Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, Skye Blue, and Hikaru Shida. They ended up taking on Taya Valkyrie, Anna Jay, and the Bunny. Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks were in action. They ended up taking on Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. And the main event was the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament quarterfinal match. Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy. So that was Rampage tonight. Rampage opened up tonight with Penta Miedo versus Jay Lethal. This was the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament quarterfinals match. Jay Lethal was accompanied by Sanjay Dutt, Satnam Singh, Jeff Jarrett, and Karen Jarrett. Of course, Penta Miedo accompanied by Alex Abrahantes. And this was a good match here. Match started off with both Penta and Jay Lethal ended up staring each other down, and they shoved one another. Penta delivered an arm drag to Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal ended up offering his hand to Penta. Penta was looking to shake Jay Lethal's hand, but Lethal ended up moving his hand away, and Penta ended up landing a super kick to Lethal, and so Lethal and Penta were exchanging overhead chops to each other. Penta delivered some kicks to Jay Lethal's thigh. He then looked to go for a Hurricanrana, but Jay Lethal ended up staying on his feet. He ended up looking to lock in the figure 4 on Penta, but Penta ended up avoiding it. Penta ended up draping Jay Lethal off the middle turnbuckle. So Penta ended up ascending to the top. He delivered a double stomp to Jay Lethal and then followed it up with a brutal overhead chop. and then he sent Jay Lethal on the ring apron. Penta then delivered an enziguri that sent Jay Lethal crashing to the floor. So Penta was looking to go flying out of the ring, but Jay Lethal ended up moving out of the way. Penta ended up trying to take out Jay Lethal again, but Satnam Singh ended up catching Penta. Satnam ended up sending Penta into the ring post spine first. So Jeff Jarrett then distracted the ref. His wife, Karen, and Sanjay Dutt used Penta's mask to tie Penta up to the ropes. So the referee ended up catching them doing that to Penta, and so the ref ejected Satnam Singh, Sanjay Dutt, Jeff Jarrett, and his wife all from ringside. So we just had Jay Lethal and Penta go one-on-one. So Alex Abrahantes was also out there still. So then as Rampage came back from the commercial, Jay Lethal was in control. He had sent Penta crashing into the corner. Penta started firing back with a kick to Jay Lethal's jaw. And then he had executed a pair of sling blades to Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal rolled out of the ring. Penta ended up going flying over the top rope to take Lethal down. Penta ended up getting Lethal back in the ring. He ascended to the top and landed a double stomp to Lethal. Lethal then ended up landing the Lethal combination to Penta. He was looking to lock in the figure four on Penta, but Penta evaded the hold. Jay Lethal then ripped Penta's mask off, and he grabbed the guitar set up in the corner. So the referee was helping Penta put his mask back on, and Alex Abrahantes grabbed the guitar from Jay Lethal. Looked like they were having a tug of war with the guitar. So Jay Lethal then looked for the lethal injection, but Penta ended up catching Jay Lethal with the backstabber. So Penta ended up sending Jay Lethal's arm bouncing off the apron, and so Penta followed up with a fear factor. Penta ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Penta ended up winning the match. Overall, good match between Penta and Jay Lethal here. Very physical match. So Penta is moving on in the tournament. And then we had Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara ended up coming out. He had a mic in hand. So Jericho got up from the commentary table. Guevara ended up saying that the two of them are pissing each other off. Guevara ended up saying that he has a point where he wants to punch Jericho in the face. So Jericho ended up saying that he wants to punch Guevara in the face as well. Guevara ended up saying to Jericho that he wants to do it right now. And Jericho ended up saying that they're getting on each other's nerves. He then ended up saying that's okay, because they're brothers, but they can't seem to get over their animosity. He ended up saying that they need to get their frustrations out of their system. So Jericho ended up suggesting they have a match in order to set their sights on the AEW World Tag Team Championship. So Guevara ended up asking Jericho where he wants to do that. Jericho suggests that him and Guevara should do the match at Grand Slam. So Sammy Guevara ended up agreeing, and so Guevara and Jericho end up shaking hands, and they hugged it out, and that was basically that. So there you go. We're going to have Sammy Guevara versus Jericho at Grand Slam. I'm going to be there live to witness the match. Should be a very good match between the both of them. Both guys know each other very well. So it's going to be awesome to witness the match live. And then we had Hikaru Shida, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Skye Blue versus Taya Valkyrie, Anna Jay, and the Bunny. Which Taya, Anna Jay, and the Bunny were accompanied by Penelope Ford. This was a snooze of a match. Boring match. Skye Blue and the Bunny end up starting off the match. Sky Blue ended up rolling the bunny up, and the bunny ended up kicking out. Taya ended up coming in, and Sky Blue delivered a forearm to Taya. Taya ended up firing back with a forearm of her own to Sky Blue. She then delivered a chop to Sky Blue. Sky Blue came back and delivered a chop to Taya. And so both Sky Blue and Taya ended up going back and forth with some chops and forearms to each other. Taya then ended up sending Sky Blue crashing into the canvas, face first. So as Rampage came back from the commercial, Sky Blue delivered a back elbow to Taya and tagged in Hikaru Shida. Anna Jay ended up tagging in, and Hikaru Shida ended up getting Anna Jay up on her shoulder. Taya ended up providing a hand to Anna Jay, but Sky Blue ended up hitting her with a kick. Taya ended up leveling Anna Jay, and Hikaru Shida ended up taking out Taya. Anna Jay ended up going after Hikaru Shida, but Britt Baker ended up taking Anna Jay down. Britt Baker and the Bunny ended up tagging in. Britt Baker delivered a double underhook suplex to the Bunny, and Hikaru Shida ended up looking to go flying off the top, but the Bunny ended up ducking out of the way. The Bunny then ended up sending Britt Baker crashing into Hikaru Shida. Britt Baker then ended up managing to cinch in the lockjaw on the Bunny. So there you go. Hikaru Shida, Britt Baker, and Sky Blue ended up winning the match. Post-match, Hikaru Shida ended up questioning, what happened? And so then she stormed away from ringside, and that was basically that. But overall, boring match this was. Absolute snooze of a match. And then we had Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks versus Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. Menard and Parker were accompanied by Jake Hager. This was a quick match here. Obviously, you all know who won the match. But Parker and Nick Jackson end up getting the match. The Bucks end up delivering a double arm drag to Parker. So the Bucks end up catching Menard with a double drop kick. So Nick Jackson wear down Parker's arm. Matt Jackson ended up tagging in, and he ended up delivering a double stomp to Parker's arm. Nick Jackson ended up holding Parker in place. So we had Matt Jackson ended up following up with some suplexes to Parker, and Matt Jackson ended up catching Menard with a double one on the last of the suplexes. Menard ended up tagging in. He delivered a brainbuster to Matt Jackson. Parker then tagged in and delivered a suplex, and then Menard ended up whipping Matt into the corner. Matt ended up managing to tag in Nick. Nick delivered a crossbody off the top rope, and he ended up going after both Parker and Menard. So the Bucks then delivered the BT trigger to Menard, and so there you go. The Young Bucks ended up winning the match. Overall, quick match this was. Obviously the Bucks, were going to win it. So then we saw the second part of Mike Santana's promo. Santana talked about the forks in the road of his career journey, and he could either take the road that led to mediocrity, or he could take the road that led to challenges that allowed him to grow. He ended up saying the one thing he learned through this process is that you can't depend on anyone else to have the same passion or drive. He ended up saying you also can't depend on anyone else to have your back the way you would have his. He ended up saying that he said the world has been asking a lot of questions, and he is now prepared to deliver all the answers. Santana ended up saying that the road he has chosen to take is a road he must take on his own, without any crutches or crew. He ended up saying that all he's done his entire life is bet on himself, and that he's not in AEW to be another guy in the game. Santana ended up saying that he's here to be the guy, and he knows he's going to piss a lot of people off, but he doesn't give a damn. He ended up saying that he's not here to make friends, he's here to make money. And for those that aren't down, they'll be run down. He ended up saying that the nastiest is yet to come. So that was what Santana had to say, but I like where this is going with Santana. Very solid promo work for Santana. So, but I like that they are reintroducing him being a singles competitor, without Ortiz, because from what I read, him and Ortiz are still not on good terms. But good promo from Santana. Main event: Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy. This was the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament Quarterfinals match. And this was a quick match here. Jeff Hardy ended up delivering a double axe handle to Joe as the bell ended up ringing. Jeff Hardy ended up following up with a drop kick to Joe's spine and a kick to his face. And he ended up going flying off the middle rope. Joe then delivered some strikes to Jeff. And so Rampage went to commercial. Then when Rampage came back from the commercial, Joe delivered a kick under the bottom rope, which sent Jeff Hardy crashing down to the outside. Jeff Hardy rolled back inside the ring. Joe ended up firing off some right hands on Jeff in the corner. Joe then ended up whipping Jeff into the opposite corner. Jeff ended up going flying off the top rope. So we had Jeff end up landing a kick under Joe's jaw. He was looking to go for the twist of fate, but Joe evaded the twist of fate, and he locked in the coquina clutch on Jeff. And so there you go. Samoa Joe ended up winning the match. So Samoa Joe is moving on in the Grand Slam World Title Eliminator Tournament. A quick match this was. Obviously, I knew that Samoa Joe was going to win the match. And my predictions on Wednesday in my Dynamite review, were right. I was right about who were going to win the matches tonight. I said Penta was going to win the match. He did. And I said Samoa Joe was going to win the match. He did. But that was Rampage tonight. Overall, you get typical, Rampage show. But anyways, that's it for my review of SmackDown and AEW Rampage. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all later.